On November 7, 2004, the Second Battle of Fallujah, initially codenamed Operation Phantom Fury and later Operation al-Fajr, commenced as an American-led offensive in the Iraq War, lasting approximately 6 weeks. The battle was later characterized as some of the heaviest urban combat Marines have engaged in since Huế City in Vietnam, and as the most arduous conflict the U.S. military had faced since the conclusion of the Vietnam War. It stood as the single bloodiest and most intense battle of the entire conflict, particularly for American forces. But what specific events during this battle made it the bloodiest and most intense, particularly for American troops? Let's find out. Fallujah is located close to the historical site of Masisa, an ancient Persian town. The ruins of Masisa are found a short distance northwest of Fallujah at Tal Anbar, now recognized as al-Anbar Governorate in Iraq. To pinpoint its location precisely, Fallujah sits on the banks of the Euphrates River, approximately 69 kilometers west of Baghdad, the capital city. On 7th of November 2004, a war took place in the Fallujah. This battle was fought between coalition forces and Iraqi insurgents. The coalition forces primarily consisted of the U.S. Marine Corps and U.S. Army, supported by the U.S. Navy and Air Force, Iraqi interim government, and United Kingdom, whereas in the Iraqi insurgents, we had a mix of local Sunni fighters, foreign jihadists, including members of al-Qaeda in Iraq, and other extremist groups and various militant groups, including former Baathists. Operation Phantom Fury, also known as the Second Battle of Fallujah, was the second major coalition effort in Fallujah. In April 2004, coalition forces fought in the First Battle of Fallujah, aiming to capture or eliminate insurgent groups held responsible for the 2004 Fallujah ambush, which led to the deaths of 4 Blackwater private military contractors. As the coalition advanced into the city's heart, the Iraqi interim government requested a transfer of control to a local security force under Iraqi authority. This local force began fortifying the city by amassing weapons and constructing elaborate defenses throughout the first half of 2004. Notably, this battle stands out as the first major conflict of the Iraq War fought exclusively against insurgents, rather than against the military forces of the former Ba'athist Iraqi government. Before delving into the details of the second battle, let's take a moment to discuss its background. In February 2004, command over Fallujah and its neighboring areas in the al-Anbar Governorate shifted from the United States 82nd Airborne Division to the 1st Marine Division. Shortly thereafter, on March 31, 2004, 4 American private military contractors from Blackwater, Wesley Batalona, Scott Helvenston, Jerry Zovko, and Michael Teague, fell victim to an ambush and were killed within the city. The broadcast of images depicting their mutilated bodies reverberated globally. Journalist Jeremy Scahill later likened this event to the Mogadishu moment of the Iraq War, referencing the Battle of Mogadishu, also known as the Black Hawk Down incident. While these deaths were deemed militarily insignificant by tactical commanders in Iraq, U.S. political leaders disapproved of a measured response targeting the perpetrators and instead called for a more extensive assault on the city. A subsequent leak revealed that the primary impetus behind this decision was not solely the killings themselves, but rather the circulation of images of the event, which symbolized opposition to American forces in Iraq. Within a few days, on April 5, 2004, U.S. Marine Corps forces initiated Operation Vigilant Resolve with the aim of regaining control of the city from insurgent forces. On April 28, 2004, Operation Vigilant Resolve concluded with an agreement stipulating that the local population must prevent insurgents from entering the city. Subsequently, the Fallujah Brigade, comprising local Iraqis under the leadership of former Ba'athist officer Muhammad Latif, assumed control of the city. Insurgent influence and dominance escalated to the point where by September 24, 2004, a senior U.S. official informed ABC News that apprehending Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, reportedly located in Fallujah, had become the highest priority. It was estimated that his forces numbered around 5,000 individuals, predominantly composed of non-Iraqis. Nevertheless, the stated objective of the military operation in Fallujah was to diminish the insurgency in anticipation of the scheduled Iraqi elections in January 2005. Prior to commencing their assault, U.S. and Iraqi forces set up checkpoints encircling the city to hinder entry and intercept insurgents seeking to escape. Moreover, aerial imagery was utilized to create detailed maps of the city for the attackers' reference. Iraqi interpreters were incorporated into American units to aid in the upcoming confrontation. Following weeks of enduring airstrikes and artillery barrages, the militants within the city seemed susceptible to a direct assault. Approximately 13,500 troops from the US, Iraq, and Britain participated in the operation. The US contingent included roughly 6,500 Marines, 1,500 Army soldiers, and around 2,500 Navy personnel in various operational and support capacities. The American forces were organized into two regimental combat teams. Regimental Combat Team 1, consisting of 3rd Battalion/1 Saint Marines, 3rd Battalion/5 Diath Marines, and U.S. Army 2, D Battalion/7 Diath Cavalry, and Regimental Combat Team 7, composed of the 1st Battalion/8 Diath Marines, 1st Battalion/3 RD Marines, U.S. Army 2 D Battalion/2 D Infantry, and 2 D Battalion/12 the Cavalry. Additionally, approximately 2,000 Iraqi troops contributed to the assault. The operation received air support from Marine fixed and rotary winged aircraft, Navy and Air Force fixed wing aircraft, and USSOCOM sniper elements. The 850-member 1st Battalion of the Black Watch received orders to assist U.S. and Iraqi forces in surrounding Fallujah. Meanwhile, D Squadron of the British SAS, part of Task Force Black, prepared to participate in the operation. However, concerns within British political circles regarding potential casualties led to the decision to refrain from direct UK involvement in the ground battle. In April, Fallujah was under the control of approximately 500 hardcore insurgents and over 1,000 part-time insurgents. By November, it was believed that these numbers had doubled. Another estimate suggested that there were around 3,000 insurgents present. However, several insurgent leaders managed to escape before the assault. Fallujah had become a stronghold for virtually every insurgent group in Iraq, including al-Qaeda in Iraq, AQI, Islamic Army of Iraq, IAI, Ansar al-Sunnah, Army of Muhammad, AOM, the Army of the Mujahideen, and the Secret Islamic Army of Iraq. Three of these groups, AQI, IAI, and the National Islamic Army and the 1920 Revolution Brigade, had their main headquarters in Fallujah. An estimated 2,000 insurgents belonged to the Army of Muhammad, which was composed of former Fedayeen Saddam fighters, Ansar al-Sunnah, and various smaller Iraqi factions. The escalating insurgency in Fallujah posed a significant challenge to the stability and security of the region. As the number of insurgents continued to swell, the city transformed into a hub for militant activity, with various extremist groups vying for control. The presence of al-Qaeda in Iraq and other radical organizations further exacerbated the situation, leading to heightened tensions and escalating violence. Despite efforts to quell the insurgency, the insurgents' ability to evade capture and regroup posed a persistent threat to both local residents and coalition forces. In contrast to the internal disputes often observed in other cities in Iraq, the Battle of Fallujah saw a collaboration between insurgents of different sectarian backgrounds. Sunni and Shia fighters, including members of the Mahdi army, joined forces with Sunni and Ba'athist groups to combat the United States. The insurgents, both Iraqi and foreign Mujahideen, took proactive measures to fortify their defenses in anticipation of the impending attack. They constructed fortified positions, dug tunnels and trenches, and set up spider holes throughout the city. Additionally, they meticulously prepared various improvised explosive devices, IEDs, and strategically placed them in key locations. To further bolster their defenses, insurgents booby-trapped buildings with propane bottles, gasoline drums, and explosives, all wired to remote triggers. They also utilized Jersey barriers to block streets and fortified homes to create strong points from which to ambush unsuspecting troops. Armed with advanced weaponry, including small arms and captured U.S. military equipment such as M14S, M16S, body armor uniforms, and helmets, the insurgents posed a formidable challenge to the coalition forces. They set up traps within buildings and vehicles, rigging doors and windows with grenades and other explosives. In anticipation of U.S. forces' tactics to secure high-rise buildings, they blocked stairwells leading to the roofs of many buildings, creating strategic positions for ambushes. These prepared fields of fire were intended to lure troops into vulnerable areas where insurgents could attack with maximum effect. Intelligence briefings preceding the battle indicated that coalition forces would face combatants from diverse backgrounds, including Chechen, Filipino, Saudi, Libyan, and Syrian fighters, alongside native Iraqis. The majority of Fallujah's civilian population evacuated the city prior to the battle, significantly minimizing the risk of civilian casualties. U.S. military estimates indicated that between 70% to 90% of the city's 300,000 civilians had fled before the commencement of the attack, leaving approximately 30,000 to 90,000 civilians remaining in Fallujah. Efforts to encourage civilian evacuation were undertaken through the distribution of leaflets and broadcasts by the military. However, several news agencies reported instances where military-aged males were prevented from exiting or entering the city by U.S. forces. Furthermore, not all civilians possessed the means to evacuate Fallujah before the onset of the battle. Embedded journalist Jane Araf recounted that some families resorted to writing "We are family" on their doors in the hope that Marines would spare their homes during the conflict. On the night of November 7, 2004, ground operations commenced with Navy SEAL and Marine recon snipers conducting reconnaissance and marking targets along the city perimeter. The assault was launched from the west and south, with the Iraqi 36th Commando Battalion leading the charge, accompanied by U.S. Army Special Forces advisors. Additionally, 1st and 2nd Platoon Charlie Company, Manchu 1st Battalion 9th Infantry Regiment Mechanized, 2nd Brigade Combat Team, 2nd Infantry Division USA Army played a pivotal role as the primary force on the peninsula. They were supported by 3rd Platoon Alpha Company 2/72 and Tank Battalion, U.S. Army, and 3rd Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion, with reinforcements from Bravo Company of the Marine Corps Reserve's 1st Battalion, 23rd Regiment. Combat Service Support Company 122 provided further support to the operation. Elements from the 2nd Infantry Division, Manchu, specifically Charlie Company 1, 9 Infantry Mechanized, including 1st and 2nd Platoons, along with SEAL Sniper Task elements from Naval Special Warfare Task Group Central and U.S. Marine Corps Scout Platoons successfully seized strategic locations within Fallujah. These included Fallujah General Hospital, Blackwater Bridge, the ING building, and villages situated opposite the Euphrates River along the city's western perimeter. Meanwhile, Marines from 1-3 deployed 81 MZ mortars during operations in South Fallujah before relocating to secure the Jerf-Kus-Sukr Bridge on the city's western approaches. However, these initial engagements primarily served as diversions to disorient insurgents within Fallujah in preparation for the full-scale offensive. Tragically, 2 Marines lost their lives in the initial phase when their bulldozer toppled into the Euphrates River, while 42 insurgents were neutralized along the Fallujah riverside. Following the disruption of electrical power by Navy Seabees from IMEF Engineer Group, MEG, and Army Civil Affairs soldiers at 2 substations northeast and northwest of the city, the offensive commenced with 2 Marine Regimental Combat Teams, namely Regimental Combat Team 1, RCT-1, and Regimental Combat Team 7, RCT-7, initiating an assault along the northern perimeter. They were supported by 2 U.S. Army Heavy Battalion mechanized units, namely the 2nd Battalion, 7th Cavalry Regiment, and Task Force 2nd Battalion, 2nd Infantry Regiment mechanized, along with 4 Marine Infantry battalions assigned with the task of clearing buildings. The Army's Mechanized 2nd Brigade, 1st Cavalry Division, and Marines' 2nd Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion, as well as ACO 1st Battalion, 5th Infantry Regiment, were tasked with infiltrating the city and eliminating any fleeing enemy elements. Concurrently, the British Army's 1st Battalion, the Black Watch, patrolled the main highways to the east. Providing support were 3 7-man SEAL sniper teams from Naval Special Warfare Task Group Central and 1 platoon from 1st Recon, who conducted advanced reconnaissance, served as Joint Terminal Aircraft Control (JTAC), and provided overwatch throughout the operation. The United States Air Force played a crucial role by delivering close air support, deploying F-15 Strike Eagles, F-16 Fighting Falcons, A-10 Thunderbolt IIs, B-52 Stratofortresses, and AC-130 gunships to execute precise airstrikes against enemy strongholds within the city. Additionally, the Air Force employed MQ-1 Predator unmanned aerial vehicles for reconnaissance and precision strikes, while the U-2 Dragon Lady high-altitude reconnaissance aircraft facilitated intelligence gathering, surveillance, and reconnaissance activities before, during, and after the battle. Under the cloak of darkness, 6 battalions comprising U.S. and Iraqi forces, supported by Marine Corps Scout and Target Acquisition, SEAL Sniper, and JTAC elements for pre-fire operations, advanced into the city in the early hours of November 8, 2004. This movement was preceded by a relentless artillery barrage, which unleashed approximately 2,500 155mm projectiles, accompanied by air attacks. Subsequently, the main train station became the focal point for subsequent forces. By afternoon, with robust air support shielding their advance, Marines penetrated the Hay Naib al-Dubat and al-Naziza districts. Following closely behind were Navy Seabees from NMCB-4 and NMCB-23, tasked with clearing the streets of debris resulting from the morning bombardment. Utilizing armored bulldozers, the Seabees methodically cleared the thoroughfares, ensuring their safety amid the ongoing enemy fire. As night descended on November 9, 2004, Marines reportedly reached Phase Line Fran at Highway 10, marking a significant milestone in the center of the city. Although the intensity of combat dwindled by November 13, 2004, U.S. Marines and Special Operations Forces encountered persistent opposition from insurgents who remained concealed within the city. After 9 days of relentless combat, the Marine Command characterized the ongoing operations as the clearance of remaining pockets of resistance by November 16, 2004. Despite this, sporadic clashes persisted until December 23, 2004. Towards the end of January 2005, media reports suggested that U.S. combat units were withdrawing from the region, focusing instead on aiding the local populace in their return to the heavily devastated city. Staff Sergeant David Bellavia from the Army Task Force 2 Infantry was bestowed with the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration in the United States, for his exceptional bravery and valor during the Battle of Fallujah. Alongside him, 10 Marines were honored with the Navy Cross, the second highest military decoration, for their extraordinary courage and gallantry in combat. To fully understand the significance of these awards, it's crucial to delve into the criteria for each and the actions that led to their recognition. The Medal of Honor is reserved for individuals who distinguish themselves conspicuously by gallantry and intrepidity at the risk of their lives above and beyond the call of duty, while engaged in an action against an enemy of the United States. Staff Sergeant David Bellavia exemplified this by single-handedly clearing an insurgent stronghold and saving the lives of his fellow soldiers, despite facing overwhelming enemy fire. Similarly, the Navy Cross is awarded for extraordinary heroism in combat, recognizing acts of valor that go above and beyond the call of duty, but do not warrant the Medal of Honor. Each Marine awarded the Navy Cross that demonstrated exceptional bravery and selflessness in the face of danger during the intense urban warfare of the Battle of Fallujah. Among the recipients were Sergeant Rafael Peralta, who shielded his fellow Marines from a grenade blast with his body, sacrificing his own life to save theirs. First Sergeant Bradley Casal, who sustained multiple severe injuries while protecting fellow Marines trapped in a house under heavy fire, epitomized unwavering devotion to duty and selfless sacrifice. Corporal Jeremiah Workman, Lance Corporal Christopher S. Adelsperger, Corporal Jason S. Clairday, Sergeant Jarrett Kraft, Staff Sergeant Aubrey McDade, and Corporal Dominic Esquivel all displayed extraordinary courage and heroism in the heat of battle, risking their lives to accomplish their mission and protect their comrades. However, it's worth noting that Corporal Esquivel declined the Navy Cross, citing personal reasons. While the exact motivations behind his decision may remain private, it's essential to respect his choice and acknowledge the complex emotions and considerations that individuals may grapple with following such harrowing experiences. Not to forget, the Battle of Fallujah emerged as one of the deadliest confrontations of the war, marking the bloodiest encounter involving U.S. Marines since the Vietnam War. Analogies were drawn to historic conflicts like the Battle of Huế City and the Pacific Campaign of World War II, underscoring the magnitude of the engagement. Throughout Operation Phantom Fury, coalition forces endured significant losses, with a total of 107 fatalities and 613 wounded. During the initial assault in November, U.S. forces sustained 54 fatalities and 425 wounded. By the conclusion of the operation on the 23rd of December, casualties had escalated to 95 killed and 560 wounded. Additionally, British forces reported 4 fatalities and 10 wounded in 2 separate incidents on the outskirts of Fallujah, while Iraqi forces suffered 8 fatalities and 43 wounded. Estimating insurgent casualties posed challenges due to the absence of official figures. However, most assessments indicated that approximately 1,200 to 1,500 insurgents were killed, with some estimates surpassing 2,000. Coalition forces also apprehended around 1,500 insurgents during the operation. The 1st Marine Division unleashed a formidable barrage, firing a total of 5,685 high-explosive 155 mm artillery rounds. Meanwhile, the 3rd Marine Air Wing deployed its aviation assets, expending 3 18 precision bombs, 391 rockets and missiles, and 93,000 rounds from machine guns and cannons. Fallujah bore the brunt of extensive destruction to its infrastructure, including residences, mosques, city services, and businesses. Prior to the conflict, the city boasted over 200 mosques, a significant number of which were lost during the battle, with estimates suggesting around 60 were destroyed. Many of these religious sites had been repurposed by insurgent forces as storage facilities for weapons and strongholds. Of the approximately 50,000 buildings in Fallujah, between 7,000 and 10,000 were leveled in the offensive, while a significant portion of the remaining structures sustained notable damage. Although precise population figures before the operation are uncertain, it's believed that Fallujah was home to between 200,000 and 350,000 residents. Both Operation Vigilant Resolve and Operation Phantom Fury led to the displacement of around 200,000 individuals who sought refuge elsewhere in Iraq. While efforts were made to allow residents to return after undergoing biometric identification, reconstruction efforts progressed slowly. By mid-January, only 10% of the pre-conflict population had returned, with this figure rising to just 30% by the end of March 2005. Despite the military operation, the desired decisive outcome remained elusive. Many non-local insurgents, including key figures like Zarqawi, reportedly fled before the assault, leaving behind primarily local militants. Subsequent attempts to root out insurgents proved ineffective, with the situation deteriorating to the extent that by September 2006, the Al-Anbar province, encompassing Fallujah, was largely under insurgent control. Following a surge in insurgent attacks, a 3rd operation was launched in September 2006, lasting until mid-January 2007. This period, dubbed the Third Battle of Fallujah, saw the development of tactics later applied on a broader scale, leading to what became known as the Great Sunni Awakening. Despite years of conflict, Fallujah was eventually handed over to Iraqi forces and provincial authorities in the autumn of 2007. However, the city faced further turmoil when al-Qaeda-linked Sunni insurgents from the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant seized control in early 2014. It wasn't until June 2016 that Fallujah was reclaimed by the Iraqi Army and Special Operations units. So this is it, my folks. I hope you enjoyed watching today's video. Let us know what your thoughts are about this intense story in the comments. If you love war stories like these, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave this video a like if you enjoyed it. Till then, take care of yourself. See you in our next video.